So yesterday we talked about categorical data. When we have categorical data, we can represent it in different types of graphs, okay? So here are three different kinds of graphs. We have a bar graph, which shows how two or more quantities compare. We have a circle graph, which shows how parts are related to a whole. And then we have a line graph, which usually shows how things are changing over time. Okay, now every time you make a graph, there are certain things that you should include. And here's the list right here. You should have a title. You should have labels for your X and Y axis, and that would be more on like the bar graph or the line graph. And then you have to have a key. All right, so we know what we're looking at. Okay, so let's start with the bar graph. We are looking at injuries for students 5 to 24 years old in organized sports. Okay, so we have a number of different sports. We have football, we have baseball, soccer, basketball, and gymnastics. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is figure out what I'm going to put on each one of my axes. So this is my x-axis, and I'm going to use this to put all of my sports. Okay, so there's my label, and I have, you're usually going to write this sideways. I have football, I have basketball, I have soccer, baseball, and gymnastics. All right. Now, my other axis is then going to be used to talk about the number of injuries. All right, so both of my both of my axes are labeled. All right, so looking over here though, we need to have some increments to start with. And since our lowest number is 11,900, I am going to start my table at 10,000. All right, and I'm going to go up by 10,000. So 20,000, 30,000, 40. Oops. And it looks like my biggest number is 83,000. So I'm going to go up to 90,000. Okay, and then I'm going to make this into a bar graph. So the number of football injuries is 83,378. Okay, so here's 80,000, and I'm going to go just a little bit above that and put in my bar for football. Basketball, I had 75,565. So I'm going to go right in between 70 and 80,000 and make my bar graph here. Soccer, I had 22,415. So again, I'm going to go to 20,000, little less than halfway. So between 20 and 30,000 is about right there. Baseball, I had 19,106, so just under that 20,000 mark. And then gymnastics, I had 11,904. So just above 10,000. Okay, so that would be an example of a bar graph. All right, next we're going to look at a circle graph. A circle graph is a little bit more complicated because we need to figure out how much of the circle to use for each thing. Okay, and we're going to use the same set of data here. So I will zoom out a little bit so I can still see this up here. Okay, so let's say we start with football. Okay, now in order to find the percentage of each, we need a total. All right, so what I would do is add up all of these numbers here, to find out the total number of injuries. And when I do that, I'm going to get 212,368 injuries. Okay, so the number of those injuries that were in football was 83,378. And I'm going to divide that by the total. And I got 0.3926. Okay, now I need to figure out how much of that circle that this is going to represent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, since there's 360 degrees in a circle, I'm going to multiply this by 360, and that's about 141 degrees. So remember, 180 is a straight line. So 140, so I'm going to put a circle here in the middle. 141 degrees would probably be about this much of my circle. That's going to represent football. Okay, now we did find how much a percent of this is football. So 0.39 would be 39%. Okay, and that's what you're going to have to go through and do for each of those. So next we have basketball. And the number of injuries in basketball was 75,565. And again, we divide that by the total. And I got 0.3558. And again, I'm going to multiply that by 360 degrees, which is 121 or 128 degrees. So again, if 180 is a straight line, I need 128. So we know this is 90, right? So I'm just going to go a little bit bigger than that, like right there. No, it's going to be a little bit smaller than football. All right, and again, here is where we found our percent. And I'm going to say this was about 36%. All right, soccer. We had 22,415 injured. Divide that by my total. And I got 1055. Multiply that by 360. And I'm getting that to be about 38 degrees. So that is not very big, maybe about right here. So soccer, here's my percentage. I'm going to say was about 11%. All right, now we have baseball that had 19,106 injuries. Divide that by the total. And I got 0.0899. Multiply that by 360, since there's 360 degrees in the circle. And I got 32%. So just a little bit smaller than soccer. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So it should be about the same size. And here's my percentage. So I'm going to say about 9%. And then our last one was gymnastics. We had 11,904 injuries. Divide that by the total, and I got 0.0560. Multiply that by 360, and that's going to be about 20 degrees. Okay, so notice we have just like a small little slice left of our pie chart for gymnastics, which is going to be about 6%. Okay, that's how you would go about making a pie chart. You have to figure out what percent it is by doing this first step. And I'll label this. This was us finding the percent. Okay, this was us figuring out how much of the circle, how many degrees in the circle that's going to take up. Okay, and then our last graph that we're going to talk about today is a line graph. So we set up a line graph just like we did our bar graph, okay? Our title is the average motor fuel for consumption in the US, okay? So down here, we're going to put our years. So 1960, 1965, 1970, 1975, 1980, and 1985. All right, and then over here is our consumption. All right, so I'm going to start at, well, our lowest number is 549. So I'm going to start at 500. Here's 550, here's 600, 650, 700, 750, 800, and that's as high as we need to go. Okay, so in 1960, we had 661. So that's going to be about right here, right over 650. 1965, we had 667. So that was pretty close to at the same spot, just a little bit higher. In 1970, we had 738. So just under 750. 1975, we had 712, so that's going to go down a little bit. 1980, we had 603, so kind of right at that 600. And then at 1985, we had 549, so right under 550. Then we connect the dots. And now we can see a trend here. Remember, line graphs are used to show change over time. Whoa, I can't hit that last dot. So what this is showing us is that between 1960 and 1985, the fuel consumption has gone down.